Welcome one and all to today, another week here at the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and joining me for the best damn day of the week, Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
Oh yeah, hey, what's up, everybody? Hi, hey, maybe at some point it'll become the best damn day of the week because you know what, things keep trying to keep me from having that streak going. I mean, Mondays are Mondays. I tried to change the script, but for everyone that was trying to watch the watch party just before this here damage report, I apologize. I've tried for an hour and a half.
I know.
I love you guys. I almost bailed on John over this. I'm telling you, bro.
And I would have understood if you did, but I'm glad to have you here for a couple of reasons. The news is the first one. We'll get to that. Second, in the first break, I want to adjudicate this thing where I'm the weirdo because I wanted to have jury duty, which clearly I don't have. But we're gonna talk about that in the break, and we're gonna just briefly, maybe to get JR started off in a good mood. Before we jump into the news, just really fast, JR, initial reactions to Liv Morgan and Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble this year. Brief reactions.
I think everyone knows Liv is like one of my favorites, so I'm totally on board. I even like that she turned on Raquel, who I also like. So that's cool. I love it. It's fun times. I like the insanity of Liv Morgan. And Roman Reigns is back, ready for another 4-year streak of a win after he wins this championship. Is that what we're in for, John Iadarola?
I doubt it. Imagine they go longer this time. I doubt it. Anyway, I also like I really like Liv Morgan. I love her, the actual like the person story of like almost getting cut and then coming back and how she wins the Royal Rumble. That's really cool. And I like that she turned on Raquel. I hope they fight at WrestleMania. I had this last minute theory that Sami Zayn was gonna come back in and win. He wasn't even in the damn thing, so I felt like an idiot. But I'm cool with it.
One thing I did have a complaint with. By the way, the AJ and what's his name, Gunther match.
Yeah.
It was predetermined. We knew it. They gave it away way too early. Like they were doing send-offs to AJ before it even started. I was like, this is over. Why are we even watching this? We know he's gonna beat him. We know all this is gonna happen. That's what they're telling us is gonna happen. Come on, bro.
Yeah, in the chat they're complaining about there's not enough wrestling at it. There were 2-hour-long matches. Anyway, we'll talk more about wrestling in the break. I suppose we should discuss the news, I guess, of which there is a lot because there's a lot of Epstein files. There's a lot of prominent a-holes that are in those Epstein files, which we're going to discuss. We've got updated polling on the economy and basically everything else. We now know who it is that killed Alex Pretti. That's pretty big, and just a lot of stuff to talk about. Massive new corruption, another special election swinging towards the Dems. So there's some good news as well. So buckle up, hit the like button, share the stream, and let's jump into it, starting with our first topic.
President Trump's name appears throughout the Epstein files, including in many of the new documents released this week. Do you have any outstanding questions, given that, about the relationship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not. I mean, I've spoken to the president about this privately and personally many times, and he's spoken very candidly and openly to the public. He says the same things privately that he does publicly. He's never had any concern about that.
He's never had any concern about that. But do you get that you're being asked if you, as the Speaker of the House, a full-grown adult male ostensibly, have any questions about him based on the overwhelming presence of Donald Trump in these files? 5,300 Epstein files the New York Times finds mentioning Donald Trump. Do you have any questions about that? No, because I talked to him. And that's generally, most people don't know this. They get a weird impression about criminal justice from TV. They think that like it's anything other than the cops just asking the people we think committed crimes whether they did or not. But that's actually all it is. You just ask them and then they say yes or no. And then you go from there. Like, have you considered, Mike Johnson, that maybe he's lying? Maybe he's been lying. Maybe he's been proven to be a liar on all of this stuff. Have you considered that maybe he did horrendous things that he doesn't want you or especially the American public to know about? And it's actually your obligation as a person who is not the same human as Donald Trump to look into it, maybe to speak to the victims, dig into the files a little bit, make sure that all the evidence has actually been released, which I will remind everyone, it very much so far has not been released. Nope. It's whatever. And by the way, that is pathetic for him as like a person, just as a politician. It's pathetic that he has no spine, no backbone, but also as a guy that like ostensibly is like deeply religious. Oh, I love Jesus and I love Bible and I love all of these things. And I don't think we need to look into the possibility that he committed any terrible crimes. Don't actually care about all that stuff about, women being sexually abused, kids being sexually abused. I asked the guy who's been sketchy for 50 plus years, and he said it's cool, so I'm just moving on with my life. And meanwhile, by the way, Bill and Hillary, they gotta testify, we gotta get them in there. Which, sure, get them in there. But why are you getting them in there? Is it because they're in the Epstein files? Yeah, that's why. So what about the guy who's in them 1,000 times more than Bill and Hillary Clinton? Nope, I talked to them and they said it was cool. That's the mistake that I think Bill and Hillary made. They didn't call up Mike Johnson and say, we didn't do it. Because that would have just done. There would have been no need for testimony. If you just say that you don't do it. Anyway, this is all ridiculous. This is all insulting to all of our remaining intelligence, what little is left, I suppose. The thing is, he is in the files. He's in the files in ways that look really damning. You can see here in this email, he's at the top of a list of the prominent men that are in here. This is the FBI official list of the accused, Donald Trump's list at the top. They had an identified victim who claimed abuse by Trump, but ultimately refused to cooperate. Now look, maybe refused to cooperate because it turns out it was being made up or something. We don't know for sure. Maybe refused to cooperate because they were being threatened or they don't think there will be justice, or I don't know, like maybe something that Mike Johnson could look into. You guys have a lot of time. You're not exactly passing a lot of legislation. You ping pong from government shutdown to government shutdown. I think you could interview the person or at least try to, and all of that stuff. And the issue is, he pretends that Donald Trump, he says the same thing in public that he does in private, but his story has been changing. It will continue to change. Now let's catch up a little bit on that, starting with this.
You said yesterday your falling out with Jeffrey Epstein was over him taking some of the workers from your business, but your administration in the past said that you threw him out because he was a creep. So can you explain that discrepancy?
Well, maybe they're the same thing, sort of a little bit of the same thing. But no, he took people that worked for me, and I told him don't do it anymore, and he did it. And I said, stay the hell out of here.
So is that what was meant by being a creep? I'm the travel pool, but I'm with NBC News.
NBC fake news. Okay. NBC's one of the worst. What else do you have? I was on Air Force One.
So let's just remind everyone, his matter at NBC fake news there than he is at Jeffrey Epstein. Let's just be very clear about that. He has more insults for NBC News than he does for Jeffrey Epstein. Him stealing your employee, which by the way, we can go to this, Virginia, Jeffrey is the employee that apparently is referenced there. Look, is that why Donald Trump actually stopped talking to him? Maybe, based on the stuff that we find in the files, he evidently was still talking to him for years and years and years past that. But maybe that hurt their friendship, and it makes sense. Donald Trump would feel personally about a young, attractive woman that he probably had eyes for going to work for Jeffrey Epstein instead. But that's not Jeffrey Epstein being a creep. Donald Trump said that being a creep stuff because he wants to make it seem as if I was turned off by what a weirdo he is. But the actual story that he chooses to focus on is not that story. It's a very different story. It's a personal business story. And so, no, the story, and all of this, by the way, I think more than enough for Mike Johnson to have a few questions, which unfortunately, he just can't come up with any, JR. What do you think?
This is what's going on here. Listen, just that little back and forth that he had with that NBC reporter that he reverts right back to calling it fake news and who you with and you're the worst. And then if it was ABC, he'd say ABC is the worst. If it was PBS, he'd say PBS is the worst. None of these are even like that good. Like I keep saying it over and over again. Everything he says to deflect from what it is that we're seeing and now discovering more and more of that we already knew, by the way. All of that is really bad. He's not even a good liar. No one believes it. We're at the point now where everything that he says, the people that continue to listen to it, it's not because they believe it. It's because they want to continue to cover with him for this. They are pedophile protectors. They are in favor of what is that we're seeing, more than horrific details that are coming out, which by the way, is several million more details that we still haven't seen. So why is it that they're still not releasing those things? Imagine things that are in that. But really fast, can I revisit Mike Johnson really fast? Because Mike Johnson said publicly what he says privately is the same thing he says publicly. Well, publicly, I wish that they would have asked him over on, I think it was Meet the Press. So publicly he called it a Democratic hoax. What is it that we've seen over the past weekend is a Democratic hoax? What is it we've seen since he said Democratic hoax is a Democratic hoax? So do you, Mike Johnson, still support him in this Democratic hoax and this latest lie that he's giving? And Mike Johnson, the American people overwhelmingly don't believe anything that you nor this president are saying. Are you still in favor of these lies that this president is telling? Why should the American people believe what you're saying right now on this show, Mike Johnson? Because you're lying to us. It's obvious you're lying to us because you still can't explain this Democratic hoax that apparently is actually Donald Trump countlessly in these Epstein files doing and being accused of doing horrific things. Why isn't it you're ready to investigate this so that all the American people who have no trust in anything that you say, why aren't you ready to do something else about this? Should the American people take to the streets, Mike Johnson, and get your asses out of office because no one can believe anything that you're saying as you continue to steal from this country. You are a traitor. Why are you still here? I'm trying to figure out when these people are gonna start running these absolute obvious liars off of their networks so that Donald Trump can have a second reason to call NBC the worst ever. How about you start acting like what he keeps accusing you of?
Yeah, it is very frustrating, and this is one of the things that for a few months it has seemed like people see through the lies. They rate this is like the worst issue for Trump is his handling of this. But and people often say like when a new big thing comes up, is this just a distraction? And I don't think it's intentional like that. But it is funny that like. It's almost like every new scandal is like, well, at least we're not talking about that last thing anymore from the point of view of Trump. It's like, well, yeah, we are gunning down Americans, but at least it ain't the Epstein files. And now it's the Epstein files again. Well, I guess at least they're not talking about the gunning down anymore.
Crazy.
But all of it's bad. All of it's insane. And let's turn to another aspect of this. One of the prominent men who showed up in the Epstein files is Steve Bannon, which on one level is not a surprise. He was weirdly a friend of Epstein in his later years, despite all of the sex crimes and all that. Now, Steve Bannon is apparently gonna go live and broadcast for 4 hours later today. And I'm gonna predict two things. One, I'm not gonna watch any of that. I don't understand why anyone would. But also, of the 4 hours, I bet very little of it is going to be seriously engaging with the weird relationship that he had with Jeffrey Epstein. And I wish this bothered his viewers more because he did talk with him quite a bit. You can see this right here where he seems to imply to Jeffrey Epstein that Trump should be removed from office. Back in 2018, New Year's Eve, apparently. So Epstein says, and no soldiers in the fort, he is really borderline. Not sure what he may do. Steve Bannon says, I think it's beyond borderline, 25th Amendment. So, and I love that, by the way, you can just say that and then to go back to like, yeah, no, but he's actually a great president now. He's totally cool, you should support him. I mean, I was calling for him to be taken out of office. And also, he's saying that to Jeffrey frickin' Epstein. This is 9 years after Jeffrey Epstein goes to prison for pedophilia and sex trafficking. And Steve Bannon's just like, yeah, it's my bud. Yeah, we chat sometimes. We send texts, fun. We talk about like topical news. We make jokes about Trump. It's great to have a friend. And remember, by the way, that Steve Bannon is trying to rehab Epstein's image. If it was up to Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein would have had a second phase of his life where all of a sudden he's accepted back into polite society once again. And for some reason, the right, which has been hyper-focused on pedophilia and elite networks and they're getting away with something, when it's revealed what they were trying to get away with, they're like, yeah, Steve Bannon's my guy. I like his podcast. I listen to it. It's fun. That's where I get my news. I'll never understand that sort of thing. Now, we don't know exactly what began that conversation, what the scandal that sort of they were referencing was. We don't know for sure. It's around the same time that Trump had pulled US troops out of Syria. Because remember, despite the promises we had made for years and years and years to support the Kurds, Trump was like, nah, screw them, they can all die, and many of them did. It was a wonderful moment for America. So anyway, it continues with this, which is even rougher and more personal. Trump will care more about this. Epstein says the two things he dreads at the moment is that an email from his ex saying he has small dick and his transcript. And Trump probably does, is very scared of that, of course, when it was revealed by Stormy Daniels. No, that's been out there for a while. Steve Bannon says, the staying away from family over holidays, huge tell. That was that Trump was not spending the holidays of 2018 with his family. Jeffrey Epstein says, that's for Madeline, to which Steve Bannon says, whoa. So they're referencing a woman named Madeline, we'll get into her. Then Jeffrey Epstein says, wake up, dude. And Steve Bannon quotes, I believe, Trump saying she has a way about her. So this is Madeleine Westerhout, So there's a 2019 email. There was allegations basically that this has been around for a little while, and they seem very clear that they think it's going on. That Trump had an affair with this aide, Madeleine Westerhout, stemming from a 2019 email from the author and Trump biographer Michael Wolff sent to Epstein, where he suggested that Trump was, I believe that's supposed to be banging Westerhout over the 2018 holiday during the government shutdown, opting to remain at the White House instead of spending time with his family at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, which is super suspicious. That might have been the only weekend he didn't go to Mar-a-Lago, was the holidays. He chooses not to, and he stays there with his young aide that he had said weird things about. And again, JR, we can't say for sure if that's true or not, but Epstein and Bannon are talking about it as if they totally buy it. What do you think?
The fact that Steve Bannon has to feel like he has to come on and have some 4-hour show where he's trying to, I don't know what, explain himself, because he's obviously intertwined well within this. But I was thinking, I said, this is the point when Steve Bannon was talking trash behind Donald Trump's back to someone else, right? So that was in 2018, right, John? New Year's 2018. Also, that's around the time, I looked it up, that Donald Trump was calling Steve Bannon sloppy Steve. Remember they had that little riff, that little fight that they had where he distanced himself from Steve Bannon, and Steve Bannon said he hated him some Donald Trump. But at the same time, Donald Trump could be decent. Steve Bannon was trying to figure out whether or not he should completely detach from Donald Trump and lose any kind of favor with the party that he's trying to continue to, build his career off of, and then piggyback back to Donald Trump. And once he discovered that he could, he came back on his knees. So that all happened around then. They probably had some other private conversations where Steve Bannon had some choice words for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said, well, F you too. And then that's when all the sloppy Steves, and he was mad about the Fire and Fury book from Michael Wolff. This is all directly connected to all of the things that currently we're watching them continue to try and hide. This is the biggest thing that this guy is concerned about, being the president of the United States is concerned about, because the people who have the information on him, he's upset with at different times, but there's always the little lapdog that crawls back and puts his head down so that Donald Trump can step on him again. Something that he has on all these folks, they get a little bit of courage, their guts start to build up a little bit, and then they come back again. Something that everyone is involved with they don't want out there. And they're willing to protect Donald Trump from it. Like, I see these riffs and they all kind of coincide.
Yeah. By the way, so he's gonna do his 4-hour thing where he tries to reassure his base or whatever. And I know that they're not watching this show, but if they were, do you know that you could just stop listening to him? You could just do that. And do you know that it wouldn't hurt your life literally at all? I used to listen for about, he's always live 4 hours a day? Jesus Christ, that's ridiculous. I mean, I love the sound of my voice, but I cap it at 90. It's a 4-hour show? Get a hobby, Jesus. But anyway, I used to listen we got an important thing to get to, so I'll be fast. For about maybe a year and a half, I listened to a WWE podcast. There's one guy who would talk about WWE, and I liked his show. And then he said some really weird stuff about trans people. And do you know what I did? I stopped listening and I found a different podcast. And now I listen to Gorilla Position, pretty good, Wrestle Talk. I listen to different shows because it's just an influencer. That's all Steve Bannon actually is. You're not gonna die if you stop listening to the guy who was being chummy with Jeffrey Epstein. And I will never understand the commitment that some people have to their influencers. But speaking of commitments people have to famous people that I will never understand, we're gonna move on shortly to Elon Musk. But we'll perhaps check in later on today to see what the response to Steve Bannon is. We'll see if, because remember, Bongino, when he left the administration, some people in his chat did actually push back against him. Fingers crossed that some of the Bannon people have at least that minimal integrity, but that remains to be seen. For now, though, let's move on to Elon Musk.
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Elon Musk loved playing the part of the accuser when it was coming to the Jeffrey Epstein files last year. He was doing the little interviews. He was tweeting stuff to look cool, like, nah, all you other people are in the Epstein files, not me. Not me. He wanted me. He wanted me so bad, but I didn't want to go. And then oopsie doopsie, more of the Epstein files came out, and he's yet another of these men that was protesting too much. And it turns out, no, they're very much in it. And so he's having to respond to it because the evidence is just so bad. And he's once again protesting too much. So we'll get to his actual involvement in it. But for now, let's jump to this. So some of his fans who pay him $8 a month to be on Twitter, they're like tweeting out like, oh, the media is lying about me. So like X-Freeze posts this tweet. Let's bring this up. Elon Musk had more extensive ties to Epstein than previously known emails show. They marked it lies. No, that's just literally what happened. There are a lot of emails between them. He discussed plans to party with Epstein. No, he did. That's in it. Now he says it's a lie, and then Elon Musk says legacy media lies relentlessly. No lie detected in literally any of that. Now that does not mean that some of what people posted wasn't untruthful, and even I briefly fell for it. So like, for instance, the girls FTW thing, it turns out that wasn't actually true. That was a little bit too, and by the way, I think he has said that in his life. I cannot prove it, but we're pretty sure here at the Damage Report that he has actually said that. But anyway, so look at me being reasonable. That one wasn't true, but lots of them were, dude. So you're simply lying. And so then he says in another post, he says, oh no, it's fine that I'm in it. I just want to find out the actual criminals or whatever. What matters is not release of some subset of the Epstein files, but rather the prosecution of those who committed heinous crimes with Epstein. When there is at least one arrest, some justice will have been done. If not, this is all performative, nothing but a distraction. Well, sure, look, I agree with him that it's justice that matters the most, but it's not just a distraction. It could be revelatory too. Now, I don't know that that Elon Musk committed any crimes on that island. I haven't seen any evidence that he committed any crime on those islands. But I do know that he lied about his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. And maybe if he didn't abuse a child, the lies don't necessarily matter to you. I'll leave that to you to decide. But I would have preferred that he not lie about it. And again, oh man, he is trying to control the narrative so bad. So in this thing, he talks about the media and how what the media is doing is, he lists 3 steps: admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. And I just want to point out, that is literally what he is doing in that tweet. He's admitting nothing, he's denying everything, and he's making counter accusations literally against the media. The projection is so obvious that only someone with absolutely zero and perhaps negative emotional intelligence like Elon Musk could have engaged in it. But the issue is that he is actually in the emails. And these are the ones that are confirmed. So you have him emailing to Jeffrey Epstein in 2012. This is 3 years after Jeffrey Epstein goes down for sex trafficking, pedophilia. Elon Musk is still totally cool with him and says, do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year. And so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. So look, is he right to say that he rejected going to Epstein's island? That email indicates that yes, he did reject an invitation specifically to the island, but only because he thought it wasn't gonna be a wild party enough. This idiot had to have it bashed over his head that they were gonna be doing like sex trafficking and everything. He didn't pick up the subtext, and so he refused to go because he wanted a wild sex party somewhere else. That's what's actually going on. And by the way, it goes on and on. So Jeffrey Epstein had said to him, I'll send a heli for you. That's when he had said to Jeffrey Epstein, we'll be in BVI, St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? He is multiple times asking about it. And then after Epstein said he's gonna send a heli and then apparently doesn't or whatever, Jeffrey Epstein might've gotten the ick from Elon Musk. On December 25th, this is literally on Christmas, this is from Musk to Epstein, says, actually, I could fly back early on the 3rd. We will be in St. Bart's. When should we head to your island? On the 2nd. Another email 5 days later. And this is, I don't think this is from him. This is Ghislaine Maxwell getting involved, saying to organize Elon Musk to the island for January 2nd. A question about it is back and forth and all these plans. And so did Elon Musk go to the island? It doesn't appear that he did. but it was certainly not for lack of trying. That guy was so horny to party with Jeffrey Epstein. And that is what Elon Musk refuses to take ownership of. That doesn't mean he committed any crimes, okay? But he is lying about his desire to party with Jeffrey Epstein. Jayar, what do you think?
This is the thing. Next, I guess Mike Johnson will be the one to defend Elon Musk and say, Elon Musk was so close with Jeffrey Epstein only because he was the FBI informant. I mean, he blew the whole lid off the whole thing, similar to what he said about Donald Trump before. Then he had to backpedal, and everyone knew what that actually meant. It was lies. Everyone knows all these excuses keep changing, man. This is worse than like, a 5-year-old that's trying to lie about how, he took a cookie from the pantry and then he didn't want his mom to catch him. Like, they're really, really bad at this. But also, by the way, I want to reset our normal reality. Things like this used to disqualify, especially a president of the United States, any politician, a state senator would be disqualified from having any kind of role in our government if it's discovered how close they were with someone like Jeffrey Epstein, let alone when we discover that he's the #1 person that's listed over and over and over again. And all these accusations and files and court proceedings and grand juries and all these people talking about things that he has done allegedly with, for, and alongside him. And on top of the fact, let's not forget this deposition from Jeffrey Epstein. Wish I had the video. I mean, if I was running and doing my stream, I would have played this. When Jeffrey Epstein was asked about whether or not he and Donald Trump associate with young girls, party with them, hang out with them, and he said, I don't want to talk about that. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. If there was any inkling of any of these types of things coming from any other politician, any other point in our recent history, they would be disqualified. So Elon Musk is taking the same approach that Donald Trump is taking, which apparently has worked with this stupid country that, yeah, sure, he was my best friend, loved him. Yeah, I was around him when he was doing all this stuff. Howard Lutnick said the same thing. I heard and saw about massage tables and I decided to leave. That is until we found out later that you didn't leave. How many more times are they gonna expose themselves for lying about being associated with Jeffrey Epstein at different times and places and different situations before we just say, I don't even care about learning the absolute horrific details of what you probably did, but because you're just too filthy and disgusting and associated and too in the neighborhood of this guy for us to ever trust anything you ever say or do again. We're too stupid to even do that now. But Howard Dean screams like a banshee and then that disqualifies him from that run. Remember that? It was like, that was the end of his presidential run. But let's not forget how fragile these things used to be. That is, unless you're alongside Elon Musk and Jeffrey Epstein. It's wild. The new defense is, I was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So what?
Yeah. Great Chappelle Show sketch though. Anyway, okay, we need to take a break. We got lots more to get to. Stick around. I think it was pretty much a hey ya, but I believe that Chappelle converted to bia, if I remember correctly. Anyway, thank you all for being here. CD Nosog Dad for gifting a membership. Droopy Bosoms Dragon for gifting a membership, and has been a member for 40 months. Says this month's sub purchase, happy Imbalk, halfway to spring equinox. Blackfire, member for 30 months, says the Elon email is worse. You forgot the mention of ratios. A lot of people think it's gender. I think it meant age. Then there's the calendar girl parties at Mar-a-Lago. You missed some key details. Well, I thank you for fact checking. We didn't miss key details. There's 1,000 key details. We can't cover literally everything, unfortunately. You're right, but we can't go through all the Elon mentions or all the Trump mentions or anything. But you're right, and you're right to speculate about those. Andre Crochet Dragon, member for 22 months, says, unfortunately just got in an accident this morning. Nobody hurt, just shaken. But now I get to stay home and watch TDR. That's good. As a silver lining, I'm glad. I'm sorry about the accident though. Let's see. Rosebud says in super chat, thanks for trying, Jayar. I believe speaking about the stream.
Thank you.
Pitchforks Dragon says in super chat, Speaker Mike Johnson looks out of place when he's not in a tree making cookies. Cargirl Dragon says in super chat, Donald Trump calling someone a creep is like Diddy calling someone a pervert. That is a great point. And YTB Renewed says, I was picked for jury duty several months after being fired from a prior job and just a few days before going back to college. I wasn't sure whether I resented having to turn down jury duty or just resented that they picked such awful timing for it when any time in the prior months would have been better. Yeah, it doesn't always work out. Yeah, everybody, so here's the thing. Everybody's acting as if I am ridiculous for wanting to try it out. First of all, I've never done it and it's a new experience. So wouldn't that be appealing? Also, you don't have to go to work on those days. I don't get why I'm the crazy person here. I don't know. Now look, obviously, if you work for someone who doesn't cover it, then sure, economically that could be untenable to do it. And I have no doubt that it could be boring. But I also need you all to understand that I have a lot of issues, some of them mental, and one of them is my brain contains entire worlds of fantasy and magic. I can just sit there and world build or whatever for 8 hours straight and I'll be perfectly happy. So anyway, Jayar, you seem to sort of understand why a person who covers the news every day would want 3 weeks off.
Oh, no, totally.
What do you think about jury duty?
No, this is the thing. I have a story I told a long time ago on the network years ago about how much jury duty was my favorite story. Maybe I'll tell it later. But it was the best. It was funny. But in newest times, I can see why you may want to go now, because back when I last did it, we had to take books and sit there and read in this quiet room for I don't know how many hours before maybe they'd call you. The most annoying thing about going to jury duty is going there and not doing anything and sitting there for that many hours and be like, man, I could have been at home.
So I had that day already. I had that first day already, and I
frustrating. I hate it. I hate it. I'm sorry, I hate it.
It's reading time.
No, bro, I read all day. I read all day. I read all the time. I'm so tired of it. So no, I get because also the other thing that my mother also says, and my parents, because they're old, you get a chance to, serve your country and actually be a decent person on a jury to make sure things are probably adjudicated the way you may not trust other folks, because people get, wrongfully accused and convicted all the time. Be someone who listens clearly and does things the right way.
Yeah. I just thought it would be an interesting experience, and now you can't. Mike says you can't broadcast wanting to do a 12 Angry Men and get chosen, John. Yeah, maybe they were watching the show. Maybe the trial is still going on. They just told me it wasn't. Yeah, I thought it'd be a fun new experience. I'm looking for new experiences, everybody. I only got a couple years left.
It was really fun, John. My experience was really fun. I loved it. I'm gonna tell that story one day.
Okay, I have put us behind. I'm gonna try to catch us up. Let's jump into the news.
Where 25 million people came in over a period of 4 years, and now nobody comes in. Nobody even tries to come in. And I can only say, I think we'll say it very plainly, elections have consequences. The people want law and order, and we have a silent majority.
Yeah, there's a little bit of copium there for you for Donald Trump. I mean, look, he's saying the border is shut down, which is if you just want the border absolutely shut down, then maybe you consider Trump to have done a good job. You can give that to him. The issue is that he knows that people are not just stopping at good job on the border. They see the other stuff that he's doing. They see what Bovino is doing. They see what Noam and Stephen Miller and Homan are doing, and they don't like it. They see the people being gunned down in the streets. And I don't think he's bragging internally about the silent majority. I think he's worried about the vocal majority that doesn't like him in general, and especially on immigration. Now we're gonna get to some of the most recent data, but first here's a little bit more from that appearance.
We have a silent majority of people. They don't go and riot and everything else, but they like what we're doing. They like having a safe city. I get calls every single day. Every person I see working in the White House, people I don't know, many people work here. And they say, I'd like to thank you, sir. Why? You've made Washington so great. We walk to work.
Yep, they just line up, big, strong, burly men, and they have tears in their eyes as they say, sir, you've done a great job, sir. Who's buying this, man? Who is buying this? Anyway, we know 39% of Americans approve of the job that Trump is doing on immigration. That's down 2 points just from earlier this month. 53% disapprove. That's 39%. That's still a good chunk of the country, right? Right? Well, 25 to 30% of that are never gonna be against anything he does. If he came in and knocked all the members of their family over the head with a baseball bat, they'd give him a rousing round of applause. And so of the percentage that can actually be convinced, a lot already have. But he doesn't want to admit it. And I get it. He can't take ownership of the mistakes that he's made. He can't acknowledge the failures of his administration, but they are adding up and we are all seeing it, by the way. Obviously, most recently, the brutal, needless murder of Alex Pretti is on a lot of people's minds. We actually have a small update on that. The identity of 2 of the federal agents who shot Alex have now been revealed. That is Border Patrol agent Jesus Ochoa and Customs and Border Patrol Officer Raimundo Gutierrez. We know a little bit about them. They've been in CBP since 2018, the first, and 2014, the second. The second guy is assigned to a special response team, which conducts high-risk operations like those of police SWAT units. And I really worry about his ability to do that job, considering that when he just comes across a guy on the street, he ends up gunning him down. I don't think we should put him in any high-stress, tense environments. But anyway, both of the men apparently are from South Texas. And so, like they've done in other cases, they take these, what are probably very conservative South Texas men, they send them these blue areas, and then they just let them run amok, murdering people. And that's what they did. And I just want to briefly jump ahead to save a little bit of time. I saw this tweet from Hand Banana, just the irony. The year is 2026. 2 federal agents named Ochoa and Gutierrez shoot a white Midwestern guy open carrying. You'll never guess which political coalitions line up on each side. And yeah, now, of course, if you understand the politics of the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, you'd know that there are a lot of conservative Hispanic voters there, which is certainly true. But then I looked below that tweet and I saw this. It was very important to people on Twitter to point out, which I hadn't known, he's not actually white, everybody. White is something of a misnomer here, but otherwise, yes, it's a rather ironic set of circumstances. And then the parentheses, you get it? It's their way of identifying Jewish people. And then for the love of God, get it right, he's Jewish. This is just a reminder that if you are not currently on Twitter, there's no reason to go back because that's the sort of people that they have there. It's very important that you know Alex Pretti is not white, he's Jewish. These freaking weirdo anti-Semites. Anyway, Jayar, what do you think?
Yeah, by the way, I mean, I guess the needless dismantling of Donald Trump's logic again. How is there a silent majority when you say people keep coming and telling you how much they love it? Is it silent or are they vocal? Because you're telling me that they're silent, but at the same time, they're vocally gonna keep run up on you and tell you. Same thing that the same that the Border Patrol and ICE agents said. Every time we walk in the streets before we're throwing tear canisters at folks, the people run up and say they love what we're doing. Are they there in the middle of these scenes of destruction and attack before they thank you so much? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. Please stop listening to them. By the way, John, one disagreement with you. These aren't failures from Donald Trump that he has to admit to. This is what Donald Trump wants. Donald Trump watches these things and he loves them. Same way he watched his mob run up on the Capitol on January 6th. He loves this. This is what he thrives for. This is what he planned. This is what he told us during the campaign he wanted to do. And there's too many people who are now apparently figuring it out that when he said those words meant what he wanted to do. Lastly, though, I need for them no longer talk about how they're arresting terrorists, gang members, pedophiles, rapists, and murderers, because all those descriptions are incredibly accurate to what is it they're doing. We have an adjudicated rapist in the White House. We have him covering up for the Epstein files for all these pedophiles that are in it, including himself. And we keep talking about how they're arresting all these folks. I really wish every time they mention it, someone says, well, that's kind of ironic, isn't it? Because you guys are covering for all of those things. We terrorized folks in the Caribbean waters, blowing up random people in boats and claiming that they were terrorists. We're killing people in the streets. We're murdering folks. And we've got gang members running up on people's cars, snatching them out, kicking in doors. And you got pedophiles that you're protecting. Please, every time you mention it, you should be embarrassed because somebody's gonna bring up all of the filthy things that you're doing and the folks that you're protecting. I need this to become like our norm and stop letting these idiots change our outlook and our reality that we're looking at in our faces. That's their objective. Keep saying it until we don't believe we're looking at what they're accusing us of.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we do at least the first half of this? I think right now, it ties in with what we were just talking about. So let's jump into this. Trump is now crowing about a silent majority supposedly supporting everything that he's doing. But the issue is that when you talk to the American people, it turns out that they aren't actually silent. They want to talk about Donald Trump, except just that they don't really like him, actually, and increasingly so. I want to show you some of this. Half of Americans say that Trump's actions thus far have been worse than they expected. And when you hear that, just bear in mind, this was their expectation of Donald Trump, and it's still worse. This is worse than they thought the guy who did the insurrection was going to do. Now, overall, he's at a 37% approval rating in Pew. That's terrible. Only 21% think that he's doing better than they thought. And every MAGA person is desperate to answer that on a poll, but only 21% could actually bring themselves to do it. 50% say worse, And the percent who support all or most of Donald Trump's policies and plans is at 27%. This is wildly unpopular 1 year after the guy gets reelected. But it's not just his policies. Importantly, they don't trust him specifically. So when you ask, do you have confidence in him on these like personal qualities, like his leadership skills? Not too much confidence or not at all is the majority position. Only 1/3 have a lot of confidence in his leadership. And it goes down from there. His mental fitness, he's at 32% extreme confidence. Physical fitness, 28%. That's probably the fault of the Cankles, I would guess. Picks good advisors, 25. Even MAGA at this point, it's like, no, he doesn't pick good people. Respects the country's democratic values is at 25. And acts ethically in office, 21. He doesn't even have the most rock solid core MAGA on whether he acts ethically in office. He's at 21%. But that's fine. Here's the shocker, the real shocker, I think. Republican confidence in him respecting our democratic values, acting ethically, it is abruptly going down. Republicans have dropped 13 points on whether they think he will act ethically in the last 11 months. That's a pretty sharp drop for people who already had the better part of a decade of experience from which to evaluate that the first time. They already had him in office 4 years, and still they've been shocked by what they've seen. Respect for the democratic values, that has dropped among Republicans by 8 points. There's basically no independents left at this point on these things. Has the mental fitness needed to do the job? He's lost 9 points among Republicans in the first year of his presidency. And look, are those numbers still too high for the Republicans? Yes, they are definitely too high, but they've dropped by a measurable amount in just 1 year. And importantly, this should be a wake-up call for other elected Republicans, because when you ask people, should members of Congress be obligated to support Donald Trump even if they disagree with him? People are moving towards no, have an actual backbone. When you look at this from February last year to January this year, the percent who think that they have an obligation to support him, this is Republicans or leaning Republicans, has dropped from 44 to 38. 61% now say no, you don't have an obligation to support him, so maybe grow a damn backbone. Jayar, what do you think?
It's all over the place, and I think as we're seeing, everything that they destroy, as much as people still try to defend him, every time that they try and assist him, they make it even worse. So even all they have to do is be somewhat competent in their lies, somewhat consistent in their lies, and all of these sycophants would actually stay on board. But they're not believing Democrats or independents or anybody that's saying the truth about what's happening. They're actually watching their Führer, and they're hoping that he'll say and do the right things to continue to keep their support. And they're not even good at keeping that. They're destroying their own base. It's not like people are being convinced by Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries ain't said nothing that's convinced anyone of anything. Chuck Schumer ain't said nothing that's convinced anyone of anything. They're so bad at this that they're telling their own followers how much they suck. I watched and looked at so many. I got tired of looking at it. So many well-known, prominent people who either supported Donald Trump or were big-time MAGA folks previous to this that are downplaying it, saying how horrible this is. They're evil people. They're pedophiles. All this, all over X, even that place, to talk about how horrible he is. The downside to this happening to this degree is that we have to all suffer through this chaos in order for these people who are so brain dead to figure out what it is that we're seeing. That we all have to suffer before they go, oh, you mean the economy sucks? Oh, you mean we have no jobs? Let's give them another year of sucking before we actually have something where we do something about it. Well, I don't know I think we're still a year from doing something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the election at the end of this year. But yeah, no, I get it. I feel the same way. I'm shocked that people still had to learn this, but at least some are learning it. Okay, we're gonna take our second break. More to come after this. We had some more interesting polling about the economy. I think let's save that and we'll do that tomorrow. Yaz is gonna be on the show tomorrow. We can definitely talk about that with her. I wanna jump to some of your comments. Also let you know, we'll probably cover it tomorrow, but apparently Tulsi Gabbard arranged a personal phone call between Donald Trump and the FBI agents that raided the Georgia election office. Because the DOJ is now so unindependent that he's personally debriefing the agents about what they found there and directing their actions? That's my speculation, but that is madness. Remember, like, oh my God, Merrick Garland took forever to indict him. And even then people are like, Biden is doing this, it's weaponization. He's personally talking to them. Anyway, Suspicious Dragon has been here for 37 months on Twitch, says, just amazes me that the people who always said don't trust the government have blind faith in a president like Trump of all people, who deserves your faith less than anyone else in American history. Amanda Lorian's been here for 36 months. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Lynn says, listening to this first story, John, it's clear why you would be a great jury member. I'd want you on my jury. Thank you, I appreciate that. Asmos Prophet says, the question is, how many years has CBP been doing the same ish on the border and we just didn't know? Well, I mean, there's been great reporting about abuses at the facilities and stuff like that. There's definitely been stuff like this. What's breaking through is that it's happening in city streets across America, I think. But you're totally right to say that we should have cared more before. Huang Jun says, I bought a ticket to see the new Melania movie and left it on my dashboard. This morning I found my car broken into and now I have 2 tickets. Jesus. LP Revolt, we'll be talking about that in the aftermath, by the way. LP Revolt Dragon says, last weekend it was 15 degrees in Washington, D.C. Now that hell is frozen over, can we finally drive Trump out? Yeah, I've heard that it's getting pretty rough out there on the east. What's it like down in your neck of the woods, Jayar, weather-wise?
Freezing, 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Freezing, 20 degrees.
Yeah. It was a little hot in LA this weekend.
No, I know.
Comfortable.
I watched Francesca do something where she was talking, and I was like, oh,
wear a hat. It
looks so nice.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to rub it in your face, but anyway, okay, we have a minute 30. So, any other thoughts about Royal Rumble? I'm excited to see what ends up happening with Liv. If it ends up being just straight like her versus Raquel, or if they make it like a triple threat or something. I don't know. Like, I would have preferred Obafemi. It looks like he's probably gonna fight Brock Lesnar now. I don't know what else.
It'll be nice. I mean, we talked. We had our our predictions stuff. Obafemi did what I think the degree to which they want him to do. He set himself up. He made a name, but they can't catapult him immediately to the winning. I get that. They could, and I knew they wouldn't. But at least that sets him up for, at least we get to see him maybe tear through the division. I think that'd be fun before he then gets his shot. Also with Liv and I'm worried it's gonna be a standard thing. Liv and Raquel, she's gonna get to the championship. She's gonna be about to win. Raquel's gonna destroy it for her, and it's gonna be screwed up. I worry that's.
I think
that come in with a hoodie on and a mask and stomp on her or something like that. Which, by the way, that was one of the best highlights. You haven't mentioned that.
That was pretty shocking. Yeah, that was Braun Breaker being taken out right.
I thought about that before. Imagine someone that you're on the roster and you have to travel all the way to Saudi Arabia to do this event, and you're there for 30 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah. Now imagine that you're Rusev and you're only there for 30 seconds, and it ain't a part of a big storyline. I feel bad for some of them, but anyway, I hope that they just have Liv win as a babyface at WrestleMania over Raquel. I think that would be great, but we'll see. We'll see if they go in that direction. I don't know. Depends on what's happening with Dominic, I think, at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, okay, that's all the wrestling talk. More news.
I'm still in that joke about the Melania tickets, by the way. Loved it.
We're gonna get to more news in just a sec. Thank you, Mike. I know. I just want to remind everyone about a partnership we've been doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. Now, normally you can switch to their Noble plan to get unlimited data for just $50 a month, but actually right now it's just $10 a month, $40 off, plus the unused data that you don't use gets you cash back. And you can find out more information at tyt.com/switch. Okay, with that, let's turn to some positive news.
A Democrat won your special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
the 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race. You mean I won by 17?
You did.
And this person lost? Things like that happen.
Does it worry you about the?
Well, you don't know whether or not it's transferable. I'm not on the ballot, so you don't know whether or not it's transferable. But
yeah, there was an election. Oh, so some person I've never had nothing to do with that, except that, as you could probably suspect, he had something to do with that, and we'll get to it. But the good news here is that a Texas State Senate, shocker, election result, Democrat Union Leader Taylor Remmett easily defeated Republican opponent Leah Wamsgans, and they pointed out it was a 15 or about point win. Trump had won that district a year ago by 17 points. So that is a big swing. Democrat's gonna be the first Democrat to hold this particular seat in literally decades. And so look, of course, Donald Trump is not going to do the adult thing, the mature thing, the manly thing, and be like, you know what? We gave it our best, but we lost. But we're gonna double down. We're gonna get him in November. He's not gonna do that. He doesn't have a testicle. But anyway, he was involved in the race. He endorsed the candidate, obviously. He posted this on Truth Social. Leah Wamsgans, Republican running for the state Senate in the suburbs of Fort Worth, Texas, will be a great candidate and has my complete and total endorsement. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. Now look, in his defense, how could he possibly remember having done that? It was like 40 hours previous to the election. I mean, so much has happened since then. He had also posted these again, telling people to get out and vote. It's Truth Social post after Truth Social post. And by the way, it is entirely possible that he's not actually involved in the writing of any of these. But that said, when they win after he endorses them with a Truth Social post, he definitely wants the credit for it. And so I think he deserves the discredit as well. And it is easy for him perhaps to be like, whatever. Sometimes you lose these, it's not a big deal. But other Republicans do think it's a big deal, actually. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said this: low turnout, special elections are always unpredictable. The results from SD9 are a wake-up call for Republicans across Texas. Our voters cannot take anything for granted. I know the energy and strength the Republican grassroots in Texas possess. We will come out fighting with a new resolve, and we will take this seat back in November. We will keep Texas red. And we've definitely been trying, not with like rhetoric or effort, but man, he really loved the gerrymandering that Greg Abbott did down there. And by the way, every time we have one of these elections and it looks like there's been massive shifts against the Republicans, remember that gerrymandering that they did is a great idea for them if the 2024 election results hold. But if things shift against them, it makes their position more tenuous than it would have been under the previous map. By the way, it wasn't just Texas Republicans that are worried about this. Ron DeSantis warned Republicans not to take this loss lightly too, saying, special elections are quirky and not necessarily predictable in regard to a general election. That said, a swing of this magnitude is not something that can be dismissed. Republicans should be clear-eyed about the political environment heading into the midterms. And obviously, neither of them wants to be weighed down, for the rest of their career by sticking themselves now too closely to Donald Trump. And Dan Patrick obviously has, his own election to worry about. But Jayar, what do you make of this good result?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I mean, we know Trump lies about whether or not he supported someone. I never heard about that before. So by the way, even if he doesn't post his things that are written up in his terms and his words, it's even worse, isn't it? That someone's posting for you. I thought there was this auto pen issue that he always talked about, and how the president is too detached from reality and can't even do it, and the staff is created for him. He doesn't know where he is. It's weird how all that is exactly what's going on with him. But by the way, you notice everyone has to couch even their criticism or even their concerns, like Dan Patrick and also Ron DeSantis have to couch all of their actual criticisms and concerns for what we're seeing with, they're so unpredictable, who knows? I can't really, Pete Sessions said it was too much snow and ice and bad winter weather for the people to come out. So was Pete Sessions saying that, only the people who voted against all of their candidates were the ones who are willing to brave the winter weather? Are people, and in this particular case, not even Democrats, but people who voted against your party, do they somehow have some kind of extra layer of skin? Are they different kinds of humans that can brave the weather? These excuses are nonsense. We understand that they're just trying to come up with something to not really face the facts. Now, if they wanted to do better, it'd be for their own benefit to face the facts and maybe change course, but they can't do it. They're too cowardly. They don't have any spine. They're just gonna sit back and say, these are all unpredictable. Sorry, it's not really gonna work. It's not gonna work, bro.
I think it just came down to the fact that Democrats are truck people and Texas Republicans drive Priuses that can't handle the weather conditions.
Did your battery freeze in your engine?
Yeah. Anyway, good result there. And I'm definitely gonna talk to Yaz about it tomorrow. Okay, one more story, let's jump into this.
I have to work out some kind of a settlement. I'm supposed to work out a settlement with myself. Because, when the FBI broke in, we sued before I was president, I said. And obviously it was a very good suit. And I have that one, and I have to work out the settlement.
Can you instruct Pam Bondi on how to handle that?
Well, I think what we'll do is do something for charity. We're thinking about doing something for charity. We'll give money to charity. We can make it a substantial amount. Nobody would care because it's going to go to numerous, very good charities.
Yeah, first of all, you're not supposed to do a settlement with yourself. You are just corruptly doing a settlement with yourself because you're suing the federal government and thereby stealing taxpayer dollars. You're not supposed to be doing any of what you're doing. So don't speak about it in the abstract, but I guess nobody will care. I mean, it's for charity. The issue is it's for a Trump charity, and we've known for a decade plus that those are all scams, and I don't even believe that it's gonna go to a charity anyway. And even if it does, I feel like I could just donate my money to charity. I don't need you to steal it from me and then give it to your own charity. That seems a little bit suspicious. But the issue is that a lot of MAGA probably won't mind him robbing them because they've become so used to it. They get robbed by him constantly with the campaign donations and everything when he's a billionaire who could obviously pay for his own elections. And so the idea that he is gonna sue America and then tell Pam Bondi how much he wants to be given, that should be enough for him to be impeached and removed from office, but it probably won't be. So let's add on some more corruption to that. We just found out more details about a UAE firm that quietly took a stake in the Trump family's crypto company, a small stake. It was only $500 million. While meanwhile, Donald Trump is conducting sensitive foreign policy decisions involving that country and other countries in the region. They just decided at that time, you know what? We'll give the president's fail sons $500 million for his crypto scam, and they're legally allowed to do that. Just the biggest bribe you've ever heard about, money going into Trump's pocket. By the way, this happened just days before his inauguration. And by the way, that investment in World Liberty Financial, one of their crypto vehicles, was one of two large transactions last year involving the Trump crypto firm and the Emirati government. The other one was what we've previously talked about, a $2 billion purchase of a digital currency issued by World Liberty known as a stable coin. So now they buy $2 billion of it, which makes World Liberty Financial look like a better business than it actually is. That benefits them financially in the Trump family. Also, they receive recurring fines or fees, I should say, off of the fact that they hold that much stable coin. So just millions of dollars a month are flowing into the Trump coffers, again, by foreign governments. That's what they're doing. And we could go into all the details of what Trump can and has given to the Emirati government since then. But Jayar, I'm sure you're familiar with the story. And all this is just going on. It's a story that we'll talk about a little bit, not taken seriously. Comer doesn't have any questions. Mike Johnson doesn't have any questions. The biggest bribery scandal in American history, and it's barely even front page news.
Yeah, and obviously you brought up Comer and Johnson because Comer went through like a 10-month long investigation into the Bidens over what they were doing and then kept coming up with nothing. It was weird. Or everything he could muster up to get on Fox News to try and promote himself even further, but they have no questions anymore now. You know, some of the terminology or the wording that Donald Trump used, and he was trying to make it seem like he could steal more money from us, which, of course, he's been doing this whole time. I mean, it was obviously a good suit that I had. I mean, this time it's gonna be great. It's obvious to who that it was a good suit. To you, who has this guy been talking to? And also him giving to charities and stuff like that. He goes, and obviously everyone will be fine with that. Who was the everybody that's fine with you taking money and giving it to whatever charities you say you're giving it to? It's madness. It's nonsense. Like this, I don't know if there's anybody in any of these positions where they can actually do something about the fact that we're seeing in front of us, literally the corruption, the oligarchy, the dictatorship that's happening at the top in front of us. It's everything that they've literally described that their opponents are doing. They're doing on a grander scale in every single instance of it. And no one's willing to say, yo, listen, you keep talking about this, but you're doing it 10 times more. And then Todd Blanche can go on Meet the Press and say, well, Joe Biden did it. So when is someone finally gonna say to them, so are you just like Joe Biden? I mean, let's take the lie. And are you just like Joe Biden? Are you falling asleep at meetings, which he also admitted to as well? I mean, how many times are we gonna say? The frustrating part is we have to keep looking at reality, slap us in the face, and see the guy that we're listening to lie to us every day and not go, how about we, stop this, stop it.
Yeah, or just, can Pete Buttigieg set up a stable coin and the Romanian government could buy $2 billion of it? Can AOC sell an NFT for $10 million? Can we do this thing? Say that we can't. Say that it's corrupt. Go on the record that it's corrupt. It would be. You'd be right. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it feel good to be right briefly? But unfortunately, it can't be because your god emperor is doing that corruption on the biggest scale we've ever seen. Anyway, we have a lot more to get to, including more corruption, by the way. That'll be fun on the other side. But thank you, everyone. Aftermath will be here after this. Welcome back, one and all, to the Aftermath. More news coming at you, but first, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for just $50 a month or even less at TRT.com/switch. Okay, we've got 3 stories to talk about. We wanted to give you this update because Brett previewed it last Friday. Let's jump now into this. When you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm not one of those right wingers that can't admit when I'm wrong. I got the Melania movie all wrong. I said it was gonna bomb. I said it wasn't gonna make much money back, but apparently it did, shattering expectations and making as much as $7 million in its opening weekend, far beyond the $5 million that Amazon apparently had estimated that it would make. Now, that said, couple little caveats about that. One, that's their estimate of how much it would make. It's not like cosmic or whatever. That's just a guess, and it made 2 million more. Like, we don't even need to relate the two. Is 7 million objectively good? I don't know. Apparently it's more than any other non-music documentary has made in a number of years, but there aren't that many of them that get wide theatrical releases. And also, they spent over $68 million on it. So I'm gonna make another prediction. I don't think they're making their money back anyway. I don't think they're making anything like their money back anyway. And so, sure, would it have been funnier if it had only pulled in $80,000? Yes. But the fact that it made $7 million, bear in mind, they spent $35 million promoting it. They're gonna get some kind of return on that investment. Not the $35 million back, evidently. So that's, I guess, the good news for them. And they're happy about it, man. If you talk to the chief of domestic distribution for MGM Studios, which I do every day, he'll say, we're very encouraged by the strong start and positive audience response, with early box office for Melania exceeding our expectations. Look, I'm gonna say that if you are one of the people, one of the poor unfortunate souls that choose to watch this, I think you probably went opening weekend. I'm predicting a vast fall off, and the reviews certainly aren't gonna help. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's at 6%, called pure endless hell. Here are some of the early critic reviews. The Guardian says the fun's not infectious and the guests are a nightmare. And 2 hours of Melania feels like pure endless hell. Was that Trump's review of an evening with her? Anyway, Nick Hilton of The Independent says to call Melania vapid would be a disservice to the plumes of florid vape smoke that linger around British teenagers. Well done. That's better writing than anything you'll see actually in the movie. And The Atlantic says Ratner seems desperate to find action, but there is none. The pace is stultifying. But so the critics didn't give it a great review. Melania did. She thinks she did an amazing job, very Trumpian of her. And she does point out in this, loved by all, well, other than the critics, I guess, it has an A in cinema score. And I checked that, and she's not wrong. It does have an A cinema score. Now, you may not know what cinema score is. It's when they, like, I guess, poll people who went to it. Like, you're a confirmed person who actually went to it. What did you think? And they gave it an A, which again, would it have been funnier if even the biggest Trump fans in the world were disappointed? Sure. But were they going to be disappointed? I mean, can you come up with a more self-selecting audience than the opening weekend Melania audience? There's no casuals who are going to this. If you go to it, you are the biggest fan of Melania in the country. So obviously you're gonna give it an A. That's not hard to get. Winning over the critics, that's harder. Pulling in people who aren't big, cultists of the Trump family, that would be harder. And they didn't do either of those things. And so, JR, it's a bit of a mixed success. It made $7 million. It is going to be a massive waste of money. It is just a bribe to the Trump family, but what do you make of it?
I mean, that is really the thing. They don't care if it makes money. They're looking to get the money back from the bribes and the oligarchy that continues to thrive. Hey, maybe at some point, I think Donald Trump is gonna sue the American people. Like, not enough of you came out, so I'm gonna sue you, and we're gonna pay Melania for it anyway, so we can make our money back, because that's totally un-Trump American like to do. By the way, the folks that came out to make sure they give it a good score, it's kind of like the Bills crowd for the NFL. Like, was that a pass interference at the end of that game? Every time there's like a fan base and it's an obvious call, they're kind of like, well, I mean, not really, because we want to see our team win. That's all this is. Sorry, Mike. But still, this is how it works. If you're a fan of this, you're gonna say it's great. And if you're not, you're not. But then we need objective opinions behind it. But beyond even all that, who cares about Melania effing Trump? Who cares? Who really cares? Brett Ratner's probably get more headlines for the fact that he popped up more and more in these Epstein files than the fact that he's a part about directing this, and then people more upset about that. Or there's enough probably hate watchers that come out to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about how horrible this whole thing was. Bottom line through all this is, we're still killing folks in Gaza. We're still starting wars everywhere else in the country. We're still murdering people in the streets of America and going after undocumented and documented and innocent folks, children, jailing them, opening up new facilities to house more people, enslavement that's happening at those places. We still have all these things happening in the world, and they want to make sure that we're concerned about whether or not the Melania movie is like something people like. I don't care if people like this movie. Do you care what's going on in your life?
Yeah,
it's what we're looking at, and for some reason we have to, have this conversation about whether or not she had a great movie. Which I'm pretty sure, if it was well made, the content is what no one should care about.
Yeah, well, I mean, based on the critics, no, it was not well made. By the way, you could have done like, it's about 20 days leading up to the inauguration. How about like from January 6th to Biden being inaugurated? That's a fascinating period to track Melania Trump, but obviously they're not gonna do that. This can't have anything interesting in it because they would never allow that. And you learn from all the reviews, you learn nothing. And I don't even know what there would be to learn. Like Maureen Dowd, very briefly, says that she did learn something. The riddle of the Slovenian Sphinx, and that is where she's from, Trump, Slovenia, by the way. The perennial question about what Melania Trump is really like behind her exquisite mannequin's mask has been answered by her new infomercial, Melania. It turns out there is no riddle, no enigma, no mystery, no dark anguish. Melania is not Rapunzel in the tower, pining to be saved from the ogre imprisoning her. She is comfortable in the frosty vertical solitude of the tower, swaddled in luxury. She's right where she wants to be, in the bosom of a corrupt family that is prostituting the people's house. Following up her shady ventures into NFTs and a meme coin, the First Lady got a windfall from Jeff Bezos, who certainly wanted to curry favor with her husband. Bezos's Amazon MGM studio made her movie, providing a whopping $40 million for the family and another for the film and another $35 million for marketing. The Wall Street Journal reported that her cut will be $28 million for less than 20 days of work. Wait, come back to me. Work.
Oh my God.
And that's all it is. It's a bribe. It's a bribe. By the way, if you're a conservative and you liked it, like I'm inclined to say that you're lying. Like I don't think you love it. I don't think you're gonna watch it over and over. But I could be wrong. I don't want to yuck people's yum. I like things that other people complain about. Some people complain about the final episode of Stranger Things. I had a hell of a time watching it, And so who am I to say they didn't enjoy it, except that I suspect they didn't enjoy it. But anyway, I just want to briefly mention before we move on. I saw a movie this weekend and it was not Melania, and I thought it was funny that I don't want to spoil the movie, so I don't even say what it was. But they early on they want to make clear that that one character is a douchebag, and do you know the shorthand way they let you know that he's a douchebag is that he plays golf. And it's effective. He does come across as a douchebag thanks to the golf. Anyway, okay, with that said, let's talk more about the arts, starting with this. Trump has now, after just a couple of weeks of the Trump Kennedy Center being a thing, turned it into what so many of his other businesses were, something that got a grand launch and then just shut down, never to be seen again. He is closing the Kennedy Center down for 2 years. And he's pretending that he's doing it so it can be renovated. But we're not gonna lie to you here on the damage report. He's doing it because he knows that they might literally have no shows over the next 2 years anyway. And if they do, it ain't gonna be anything to write home about. So here's what he posted on True Social. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because a theatrical performance of this would be a show at the Trump Kennedy Center. But he says after a year of reviewing it, that he's done interviews with contractors, musical experts, art institutions. Yeah, he was talking with all of them. He had to decide, basically, I'll shorthand this. Should we keep it open and do small renovations, or just shut it down totally? And he's like, no, it's better to shut it down totally. Because then, you could do a better job and it'll be much faster. It's still under his plan gonna take 2 years, which conveniently means basically for the rest of his term as president, it won't be around. And so, yeah, he's gonna say it's because it's super nice, like marble or whatever. We just gotta shut it down. It really does seem, JR, like this is a massive admission that this has been a failure, and that him taking it over and especially putting his name on it, not just figuratively, but literally putting his name on it, means that they can no longer get anyone worth getting to perform there. And it would just be a constant embarrassment that they're basically getting, like, I don't know, high school string choirs or whatever going in there. That's the most they could do. And so that's my theory. It's the theory that a lot of people have. I don't know. Do you buy at all the renovation cover story? No, I assume you do not.
Not at all. This is the thing. Even the high schools wouldn't want to go in there and do that. Believe like a stench on you. But by the way, he was just complaining before about how all these acts are starting to cancel their performances, taking the hit. He said he's going to sue some of them. Why does he think anyone's going to believe that he's now saying, I mean, we should shut it down for these renovation purposes? I wasn't just mad about it 2 months ago about how all the Christmas shows were getting disrupted, how protesters came in, how I had to put a bunch of sycophants up in the upper level to come and kiss my ass a little bit more. He thinks we're gonna forget all those things, as then he now acts like this is gonna be the new excuse or the reasons why they're shutting it down. Hey, when he was posting about all the marble armrests that he wanted to put everywhere, was he saying it's gonna be such a big renovation process, we're gonna work through all of our, pardon our dust, as we continue on? None of it was said. It was everything's gonna go smoothly. I know how to plan things. I'm always under budget. I'm beautiful. I'm perfect at this. He says all that stuff, and then when it doesn't work out that way, he says, you know what? I have the genius idea. We're gonna shut this whole thing down, make no money. Like I said, we were gonna make tons of money doing this. He keeps changing stories, and somehow he thinks people are gonna believe it. Even the people who support him are like, okay, yeah, this isn't working out. Well, let's cover his ass. It's either the cover his ass group or the reality group. That's really all that happens with everything that he lies about.
Speaking of money, we don't know what the renovations are or how much they're gonna cost, or are we paying for it? Is Zuckerberg pay? We have literally no idea. And I don't know if we ever will. It's just up to him, I guess. He just gets to, we're a massive piggy bank that he can spend on whatever he wants. And I will just briefly mention a couple of the major operas that would work with the Kennedy Center have cut ties. The Washington National Opera is not working with it anymore. The National Symphony Orchestra has been playing to empty seats. Barely anybody showed up. Attendance was down 50% since his inauguration. So no, I don't think people aren't going because the seats aren't nice enough or whatever. I think they don't want to go to your thing. By the way, the last thing I'll say on this, I saw a movie this weekend, as I mentioned, and I was sitting in my seat, and you know what I never once thought? Man, these armrests should be made of marble. They were just this like padded, comfortable thing. Really should have been hard stone, dumbass. Anyway, okay, I think we'll save the Arch thing for tomorrow. Why don't we move on to our final story and get Jayar's thoughts on it? Or actually, should we get some balance and do that with Yaz? Maybe that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, let's just go into the Arch actually with Jayar, and we'll end with even more art or whatever. Okay, actually, let's just jump right into the video.
We're considering an ark that's like the triumphant parasite. So for 200 years, they've wanted to build an ark. There are 57 cities throughout the world that have them. We're the only major city, Washington, D.C., that does it. The circle prior to the bridge, the Arlington Bridge, has been waiting for hundreds of years to have this done. So we have an unbelievable ark that I think will be the most beautiful in the world.
Biggest arc, big arc, huge, very huge, as we will describe. And look, I love to point out when he lies in his video, but I mean, nobody can dispute he's right. Your entire life, you've been wondering, when are they gonna build the Arch? Obviously, for hundreds of years. I've literally never heard anyone say that. By the way, apparently there are lots of them around the world. If you wanted to have some kind of arch, I guess you could do it. And if that was the only thing he was doing, I don't think a lot of people would have problems with it. But when you're wrecking the golf courses there and you took out the East Wing and you put your name on the Kennedy Center, kind of feels like there's a pattern here of this being about you and massive wastes of money. But it is a waste of money and it will be massive. He apparently wants to make it 250 feet tall, which is pretty big. Now, he had considered smaller versions of the arch, including a 165-foot high version, 123-foot high version. And he was like, nah, you know what? I think it should be bigger. First time in his life he's ever said that. And 250 for 250, with our anniversary. That's why we're gonna do it. Weird that this is exactly how the ballroom stuff played out. You keep showing him bigger versions and he keeps saying bigger, bigger, bigger. And so here's the design, which by the way, that's just AI art. That's not how big it's gonna be. You look at the scale of the person, it's gonna be like 5 times bigger than that. And for I guess, global perspective, he shared this. He was super excited about one of these other arches around the world. So he's like, India's beautiful triumphal arch. Ours will be the greatest of them all. And you take a look at that photo and you can look it up. It's pretty big and it commemorates the soldiers of theirs that had died or whatever. That looks really big, right? That looks huge. I mean, that's pretty big. That one is 138 feet tall. Ours will literally be twice as tall as that. And there is no reason. Now look, maybe we can have people from DC weigh in, but it's not a super high city. It is going to overwhelm all of the other monuments, and not in a good way. This guy has no taste. He doesn't understand at all how proportion works and how you balance these things. It is going to be so huge and so gaudy and so ridiculous. It's basically him in stone form. What do you think, JR?
Well, that is the plan. By the way, he said, you do possibly remember this time, John, during the campaign when Kamala Harris and Donald Trump were arguing at the debate over who's gonna build the ark that the American people have been wanting for hundreds and hundreds of years. That was the campaign promise that everyone wanted. It was like the #1 campaign promise. That is until Donald Trump came in to talk about how it's all about him. This is just a big triumph to himself. By the way, the last person probably that you heard talk about how they saw someone else's ark and then want to build their own of their own grandeur was this one guy. I can't remember his name. Like maybe his initials were A and H, Adolf. And that's the same guy. If you want to look it up, I talked about this before when he first mentioned this whole thing. Adolf wanted his own larger, more grand ark because he saw, I believe it was France's, and he said, I want a better one because I need to build a monument to my Nazis and my takeover of the world because we need to show how much better we are than everyone else. It didn't get completed because he lost, and in the middle of his plans for this building in this structure, it didn't really come through. But it was one of the #1 things on his mind. You know what? I love how history repeats itself. I'm gonna bank on that happening again. And this guy wanting to have another one of these. By the way, the other part about this, India's, as you mentioned, it commemorates soldiers that died or something. It's weird. Donald Trump is mentioning any soldiers, isn't mentioning anything about America's, isn't mentioning anything about our history, isn't mentioning nothing about this ark that means nothing, that has zero function outside of another example of his thoughts of making himself bigger than he really is. He's so small and he needs to keep telling people, well, I'm gonna build something that shows I'm big. He's such a small person in every aspect.
100%, yeah. Yeah, Octoscodes had pointed out. Remember when he said, and when he first ran, build that arch, build that arch, like this. And tell me again that he's a populist and he's anti-elite and everything. By the way, I looked it up. The Arc de Triomphe, the main one that people think of in Paris or whatever, is 50% smaller than the one that he wants to build. Obviously, that's probably the thing they punched into ChatGPT. Can I make it 50% bigger than Macron's? That's probably what it is. Also, I just discovered that you can apparently go on top of that one and see like all of Paris around you, and that sounds lovely. Anyway, okay, so that's gonna have to be it for today's show. JR, sorry about the rough start to your day. I hope that you had fun at least for this chunk of it, and certainly I did with you, so thank you.
I appreciate it, it was a little better mood. To everyone that mentioned it, I'm not sure if many things gonna be up on the channel today. Apologies, maybe these will be fixed tomorrow. If not, I'm gonna build an Arc de JR.
And it's gonna be 1,000 feet tall.
It's gonna be out of like 7 Legos.
Oh my God. Oh, don't. That will cost more than marble, I've recently found out. Anyway, thank you, JR. And everybody, tomorrow, Yaz is gonna be here, gonna be a lot of fun. So definitely stick around for that. If it's not already clear, I'm not doing jury duty. I'm gonna be here all week and everything. So that'll be cool. And so yeah, until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.